All right, good morning. This is Jeff Orrock here at the National Weather Service in Wakefield on this Thursday briefing for May 7th. I'm going to talk about the weather here for the rest of this week into the weekend and get a little bit into some of next week. Of course, the big thing, the most exciting thing we've had here lately is we've actually had some rainfall here over the past 24 hours. And this was a capture as of about 8 o'clock this morning. So we have seen some additional rainfall. You can definitely kind of see the haves and the have-nots. Some areas there just north of Richmond, including maybe parts of Tappahannock, getting over the eastern shore. There was a bit of a minimum there. We didn't see quite as much rainfall, where once you got over northern Virginia, you saw a pretty good stripe of rain up here, maybe around a half inch or so. And really, once you get to the Richmond area, there was a bit of a stripe of some decent rain here across Chesterfield, even getting into parts of just the north side here. So a kind of interesting little, and actually we'll see that in the observations too. And then once you get southeast of Richmond, more towards the Isle of Wight and down towards Hampton Road, you see another area here where we saw some additional precip. And we're actually seeing a lot more moving back into southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. I'll show you that here in a second. Actually using CocoRa's, and we push this a lot. This is a great resource. So this is a lot of the observations that we saw this morning as of 8 a.m. So you can really see that the amounts here for parts of Isle of Wight get into Southampton here in Wakefield on the peninsula. A lot of half-inch reports in here. And by the time you go southeast, it does start to decrease, and especially when you get over northeast North Carolina. They really didn't get much rain last night. Now, there is a slug trying to move in there now, so maybe they'll pick up a little bit more, but it was really mainly north of Elizabeth City. Once you got to Moyock North, we saw some better rainfall, especially up towards the peninsula. Around Richmond, again, some people, that stripe of rain that showed up on the radar, actually we did capture it with some of the observations. So some folks did report a half inch there just south of Richmond across parts of Chesterfield. But a lot of around there, north and south, just north and south of that, not a lot of rain, maybe a tenth, 2/10 of an inch of rain. And again, we talked about that minimum that was occurring. Once you get north of Gloucester, not much rain had fallen really across a good part of the middle peninsula, northern neck, and then, north of Richmond, Caroline County, maybe a tenth of an inch of rain. So not a whole lot of rain overnight in some areas. Did see a little bit here over parts of Maryland Eastern Shore, maybe about a tenth to a quarter of an inch. And again, most of the Virginia Eastern Shore really kind of missed out. They're getting a little bit more coming across Cape Charles now, but they kind of missed out on the overnight rainfall. So here's what's going on right now. We'll kind of look at what's happening with the radar. And this is a little bit of a hot color curve, so it makes it look probably a little bit heavier than it is, but you're definitely getting an idea where you're seeing some decent steady rain. And we've got some good steady rain here in Wakefield. So this last little slug here, kind of coming across parts of central North Carolina. And so that's going to continue to move here across southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina, really into parts of this afternoon. So gradually, the rain's going to taper off from west to east, and we do have this last little hurrah here that's making its way across North Carolina. So we are going to see quite a bit of rain, I'd say mainly south and east of Richmond here and into North Carolina probably for the next several hours. So continuing to get some beneficial rain there. But once you get really north, really, I'd say of Wakefield, and you get up past, let's say, Williamsburg, not a lot of rainfall in there anymore. And so it's pretty much over, just maybe these little widely scattered showers sneaking through. So there may be a pocket of rain here or there across portions of central Virginia for a bit of this afternoon. And we may even sneak up into parts of Maryland Eastern Shore, kind of cut that off on the map here. But you can really tell the rain for the rest of the day really is over southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. And there is a bit more beneficial rain coming here for the next few hours. So that's good news. Looking at the weather maps, and of course, what's going on here. In fact, before we do that, this is actually the simulated radar. I forgot I had this over there. So let me reposition this. And so this is kind of looking at the way the day may play out. And it's, doing a good job here showing kind of this rainfall, mainly south and east of Richmond. And you got this slug here coming across North Carolina. And as you move that ahead in time, it takes a little while. It kind of spreads east and moves into southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. This is 1 o'clock this afternoon. And it kind of hangs on to the coast till about 2 o'clock and gradually starts to taper off from west to east. Hampton Roads looks like you'll be getting out of the rain maybe by about 3 or 4 o'clock. And eventually this whole thing moves offshore by about 5 o'clock or so this evening. So just a little bit more rain there for southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. But again, our friends here across central Virginia, Richmond area, just some widely scattered showers. Same thing for most of the eastern shore. It's going to move east pretty quickly. So you've seen the bulk of the rain that you're going to experience. And so that's been associated with the cold front that's been moving down across the area. We'll kind of step through the weather map. So, for this afternoon, this cold front is going to continue to push south, and we're going to see a little bit of that rain behind the front, but eventually all this continues to push south, and it's going to take the rain with it. By this evening, you see that front is kind of getting down towards Wilmington, and all the precipitation is really pushed out of the area. By tomorrow morning, we have high pressure in place, and so we are expecting mainly dry conditions. There could be an isolated shower here or there. Maybe a little bit of a breeze in the morning. Some cooler, dry air kind of surges in the morning, but for the most part, high pressure in control, so nothing to really be too concerned about that. And that continues into tomorrow evening. High pressure slips east. By the time we get into Saturday morning, you notice that high is way offshore. There's another weak front starting to approach across Ohio and parts of Kentucky. We could see a few little isolated to widely scattered showers here on Saturday. Nothing really to hang your hat on, nothing too exciting. But we did bring a chance of rain back in the forecast for Saturday. So just ahead of that front with the south wind kind of starting to increase. By Sunday morning, that first front is actually going to try to push through. And there's another secondary front coming in behind it. That's going to be the stronger front. It's going to be the one that you're seeing here coming across Ohio and Kentucky. So kind of a 1-2 frontal passage. But for the most part, we think Saturday is going to be pretty dry. The chance of rain is going to increase into the evening and overnight, Sunday night into Monday morning. But there are a couple little fronts that are going to sneak through. By Monday morning, you see that main cold front now pushing its way all the way to the coast. And so Sunday night, Monday morning could be a little bit wet for some of us, a little bit breezy as this cold front comes through, because this will be a pretty decent cold front that comes through early Monday morning. And eventually this high pressure moves down and builds in for Tuesday. And things dry out a little bit. But because of these series of fronts, we are going to continue to kind of see some up and down temperatures. Things are going to warm up, going into the weekend, and then they're going to cool back down a little bit for early next week, and then maybe warm back up again a little bit later on next week. So just kind of up and down with our temperatures, as they go. So no risk of severe storms. That there's a storm prediction center has us in a kind of a low probability that there could be a thunderstorm over southeast Virginia with this stuff coming through, but we're really not seeing any lightning, and there's not a lot of instability. No chance of thunderstorms on Friday and Saturday. They have a very, very low chance of an isolated thunderstorm there, maybe over northeast North Carolina on Saturday, but I'd say the probability of that is very, very low. So no severe weather expected. As far as our precipitation, and the map here on the left is really looking at a lot of the precipitation some of that fell last night. So you're kind of adding to this. But look at the timing of precipitation. Obviously at 9 o'clock, there's still a lot of rain everywhere. Here as we push the noon hour, we do still have quite a bit of rain, especially in areas in the east. That's why I see Gloucester at 70%, Elizabeth City still at 70%, Edenton 85%. So all that's going to taper off from west to east. And by the time we get to 6 o'clock this evening, you really see all the chances of rain for just about everywhere is gone. Maybe some slight chances of precipitation there over northeast North Carolina, and that's really going to be about it. And then we see a break in this, and then you see the rain chances do come back a little bit for Saturday, especially the closer to the coast and the bay you get. There are some higher chances of precipitation, anywhere from 30 to maybe around 50% or so. But as you get further west and inland, you'll notice those chances of precipitation are a bit lower, maybe a isolated shower or widely scattered shower inland, and there could be just a little bit more close to the coast, just a few little scattered showers. Not expecting a lot of moisture with this. It just could be a few little showers here and there. So looking at the rainfall totals, here on the left, this actually takes us through Saturday. So the left image is kind of giving us the rainfall amounts, really what happened last night and all the way through what's happening right now, and maybe those scattered showers on Saturday. So really, obviously, most of the rain, like you've been seeing, is accumulating over southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina. And for the next rain event, looking here at the right image, this takes us from the rainfall Sunday night all the way through Wednesday. Really kind of the same, but the best precipitation is really going to be, over the eastern shore, hopefully, to get some more up north. And again, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina, and a lot of central Virginia and parts of the Piedmont really might miss out. You get a little bit of rain like you got this last time, but you might not see the heavier precipitation. And in fact, if I look at some of the model averages, for this next event, the Sunday night into Monday event, this is kind of what it looks like. If this may be a little more spread out than what, there could be a little bit tighter gradient here over the inland areas, but it's saying that, suggesting that, a good portion of the area, I'd say a tenth to a quarter of an inch, but then Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina might be able to get another half-inch of rain out of this or so. So it just depends upon how you slice and dice the data, but it does look like everybody will see at least maybe a little bit of rain again on Sunday night into Monday, but the better rain totals are probably going to be a little bit more in the east. So we'll see how that plays out, kind of maybe somewhat similar to the event that we're experiencing right now. And again, this is looking at the 7-day total. So this is looking at, the rainfall that fell early this morning, I'd say all the way through today. And then again, what's going to be happening later on this weekend. So we'll see if we really get into this, 1 inch and a half of rainfall here over parts of Southeast Virginia. And again, you notice once you get north of Richmond that there's definitely a minimum as you go further to the north and west. And some of the worst drought conditions we'll talk about are actually in the areas right here that are going to see the least amount of rainfall over the next 7 days. So that's continues to be a concern with the drought. Wind-wise, I'm really not expecting too much wind. I know folks have some events and things planned this weekend. A little bit of a north breeze today, especially as you get closer to the coast, maybe gusting up to 15 to 20. And then the winds do decrease tonight. Notice that tomorrow we kind of get a little bit of a south wind around maybe 10 to 15 miles an hour. But then on Saturday, the winds do pick up a little bit. The south winds do increase about maybe 15 to 25 mile an hour gusts, depending on where you are. But nothing too strong, just a little bit breezier on Saturday. And it's going to be warmer on Saturday with that south wind. Now on Sunday, you don't see it, but the winds do pick up again late Sunday night and into Monday. But I just want to highlight the fact that it could be a little bit breezy on Saturday, depending on where you are. If you've got some outdoor events, just a little bit of a, I'd say 15 to 25 mile an hour wind. Looking ahead to the entire week, you definitely see today's the cool day here on Thursday with the highs, really struggling out of the 50s to get into the 60s, maybe some mid 60s there over Northeast North Carolina. Tomorrow still in the 70s, but then you see by Sunday ahead of that next front, it gets fairly warm. We'll be warming up, I'd say, to the upper 70s. We might start to get to around 80 in a bunch of locations. So that's our warm day. That cold front comes through and things do cool off for Monday and especially for Tuesday. But then we start to see that warming trend a little bit again by about Wednesday of next week. But then there'll be another front behind that, probably around Thursday or Friday. Looking at our rain chances, obviously today we got those kind of a small rain chances there on Saturday, but you see those better rain chances coming in. Really, it's not till I'd say late Sunday afternoon, especially Sunday night and into Monday morning. That's when we have that next big chance of rain where, most locations have at least a 50 to about almost 70% probability of rainfall there as we get into Monday morning. So that'll be our next chance for decent precipitation. This is the updated drought monitor. And so you can kind of see for our area, not a whole lot of a change, but if I was to zoom out and look at the whole state, the red area here where you have the extreme drought has expanded for parts of the Shenandoah and the mountains. They have expanded it. For most of us, it's kind of status quo for the most part, kind of remaining in this severe drought with a little bit of this extreme drought in the areas in red. The rain today will help a teeny bit. Now, as far as, the overall river flows and things like that, recharge, not so much because it's really not falling in the upper reaches of the rivers, the upper parts of the James, the Nottoway, the Appomattox. They're not really seeing all the rainfall that we are over here in Southeast Virginia. So water flows are going to continue to be very low. The soil moisture has been incredibly low, and so it's going to take quite a bit of rain to soak down to really start to bring these soil moistures up. So it has been so dry, the ground's going to suck this up, and we'll see how much the conditions improve next week over Southeast Virginia. But conditions are continuing to worsen, especially I say once you get to Richmond and locations north and west, and even for portions of the Eastern Shore that are missing out on this rainfall today. Looking ahead to the next 8 to 14 days. So this takes us way out to mid-May, May 14th to May 20th. We are going to be looking at a warming trend again. So there's a good probability here that temperatures are going to start to trend and remain above normal. So we're in this almost like cool spell now where we're getting these temperature swings where temperatures are dropping below normal, then getting back up to normal, then dropping back below normal. That may change in about two weeks or so, 8 to 14 days, where we may start to see above normal temperatures and we may kind of stay there. We may see a warming trend. And precipitation wise, we've been in a slightly above normal trend here over the last week. That'll continue for a couple days. But then as you get further out in time, looks like we're going to return to near normal precipitation, not going to be above normal anymore. So the rainfall may start to turn off a little bit once we get 8 to 14 days out into the forecast. I put this out in the briefing. There's a good heat webinar coming up here, so we kind of put out a plug for that on May 18th. We are going to be adjusting some of the ways that we message heat, working with the health department this year. So more to come on that one. I'm going to shift gears real quickly and we'll go right into the marine briefing and kind of talk about what's happening on the marine. So with the orange representing the small craft advisory conditions, we are expecting those small craft conditions today with that north wind persist a little bit into tomorrow, and then a little bit of maybe of a at least sub-small craft advisory conditions on Saturday. It may be close, but we think we're going to stay just below small craft advisory conditions on Saturday, maybe even a little bit less wind on Sunday, but those winds pick back up again on Monday. You see Monday night, a lot more orange on the map again. So those winds starting to pick up with that next front surging down the bay. So again, expecting those small craft conditions there on Monday. And kind of breaking it down, looking at it here, inshore across the bay in the near shore waters, you see that northeast wind today gusting up to about maybe 20, 25 knots. You see a little bit of a break in the wind, and you see that right there on Friday early morning, there's going to be a little bit of a surge of dry air early Friday morning. And so those winds may pick back up again, those northwest winds gusting to about 20 to 25 knots. It shouldn't last too long, but there's a little bit of a surge tomorrow morning on the water. So just be aware of that the winds may decrease this evening and through the early morning hours, but then they pick back up, I'd say between 3 and 6 in the morning, a northwest wind. And then it decreases again here as you get into Friday afternoon. And then eventually, as a high pressure moves offshore, winds go from northwest and they become south. And they run around, I'd say 15 to 20 knots. And they stay that way for the most part all day Saturday. And you see Sunday here right now looks to be the lightest wind day this weekend, but those winds do pick up once we get into Sunday night into Monday with that next front. Same thing further offshore. I'm looking at the coastal waters and getting offshore. Again, those northeast winds today, a little bit of a lull, and then those northwest winds pick up a little bit here early Friday morning, and then they decrease a little bit, then become southerly, and you maintain those 15 to 20 knot winds coming out of the south. Maybe they pick up a little bit offshore. As you get further offshore, you're starting to see some gusts there to 20 to 25 knots as you're getting out there towards the canyons and out past the wind farm. But again, winds decrease pretty good there on Sunday everywhere. Looking a little bit further out in time, in the winds, I'm kind of hinted there at Monday. So that's that next frontal passage. So that front's coming through on Monday morning, and you see those winds go northwest, and they're going to be a good 20 knots sustained, gusting up to maybe 25 knots. Could see some gusts to close to 30 knots, further offshore, but you definitely see that front coming through Monday morning between 12 and 6 a.m. By 6 a.m., you got that northwest wind, and those northwest winds persist, through most of the day Monday, and even into Monday night. And then the winds decrease a little bit here as you get into Tuesday, and then by Wednesday, temperatures warm up again. You got the increasing southerly wind, about maybe 15 to 20 knots. I'm looking at the wave heights near shore, nothing to be really too concerned about, maybe around 4 feet out here in the coastal waters. Getting offshore, running about 4 to 5 feet, and that's going to be kind of persistent off and on here for the next couple of days, running about anywhere from, I'd say, 4 to 5 feet. As far as just the overall wave heights, again, for today, kind of seeing what we're seeing here, significant versus the occasional wave height. So could be some occasional waves of 7 feet as you get further offshore. A little bit less waves tomorrow. And then when you get into, I guess this is late Sunday, kind of holding about the same thing, 2 to 3 feet near shore, occasionally about maybe 4 to 5. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.